So you've generated lots of data, hopefully. You've undertaken some really interesting analysis and you've come up with some really special results that support your project thesis. Now you're going to need to communicate it with your target audience. Now that might just be your boss, it might be the team you're working with, or it might be the wider organization, or out to the wider public. What are the basic principles that you need to consider? To my mind, the first of these, and the most important, is what is the purpose of the map? What are you trying to achieve with it? And it's worth asking yourself that question before you start diving into a design process. Is it going to be published, as a large traditional paper sheet? Very rarely these days, but still some are being done. Or is it going to be added in as a small insert into a major report? Or is it going to be used online or in some project app? You need to think carefully about the purpose, because that dictates everything you do in the design process. You've got to remember that it's hard to show a large area in great detail if the image is small on a screen or even within a report. You need to think about how the audience accesses the information and the message that you want to get across. And they've got to do that quickly and accurately. You don't spend very long looking at a map. You take away a message very quickly. So these things you've got to consider. The purpose of the map, what the key messages are, and how you're trying to communicate. What's the key takeaway? That's number one. The second, and related to that then, is what's the base geography? What are you using as a background? Is it an image, or is it some open mapping, or is it something from your own database that you've created? Are you doing it for the whole of the UK? Are you doing it for a very localized project area? You need to think about those things, because you may need to show different levels of geography, which may mean that you need more than one map to get the message across accurately. Once you've decided on the geographical level, you also need to think about the level of detail. The size of your area and the medium clearly dictate that to some extent, but you need to think about, do I want to show all the detail I have in my database? Do I need to generalize it because I want to show more? Will I start to use symbols or color shading, other techniques, which we'll talk about shortly, in order to reduce the content of my database to make it effectively as a communication tool? And as you're thinking about this, the design starts to kick in, and you've got to think about things like color, text, and symbology, and how to use those appropriately.